Oh, on the road. All right. Welcome everyone to this huddle. We've missed a few weeks, spring break, busy company stuff going on, but we're happy to be back and in the saddle for this week's huddle. Welcome, Rob. Rob's going to help us out today. Will's got other commitments. And today we are going to be discussing, we're going to be working directly out of the coaching manual. For this one, we haven't really talked a lot about listing stuff lately or done a lot of coaching stuff. So we're going to be doing some of that today. By the way, in the chat is the coaching manual. So you can click on that link and follow along if you so choose. And we're going to be talking about listings today. And part of what we're going to be talking about is using NAR does their buyer and seller survey every year. And I don't know that buyer and seller survey in the last decade has changed dramatically in regards to what our buyers and sellers are telling us they want and need from us. Sorry, my mic's in the way. So I think you can reference it in general terms pretty accurately, and it seems to hold true across the board as time goes on. All these sentiments and whatnot. So we're going to talk about listing presentations and expectations and how our clients are searching and finding their real estate agents. And some of this stuff you're going to already know, but we're going to reaffirm it. And you may learn a thing or two here. So let's go ahead and jump on in, and I'm going to share my screen. Again, this is about page 96 it's going to be page 96 of our coaching manual. All right, there you go. You should see that. I'm going to zoom in here. All right, so I think this is, by the way, this whole section of the coaching manual is really based on that NAR survey of buyers and sellers, and hopefully it gives us a better perspective on what our clients are expecting of us, and maybe should instill some confidence in our ability to go out and get these listings. So I think we need to talk about how we're identifying and prospecting to get our listings, and a couple other things too. We need to understand what our clients are saying about us. So let's jump into this is the biggest one I always talk to agents about when they're nervous. If you're nervous about going and do a listing presentation, I understand. I think I'm nervous pretty much just a little bit every time I go and do a listing presentation. But you should know, if we look here and we zoom into this, so consider the data below, number of agents contacted before selecting one to assist with the sale of a home. So you can see it's broken down into age groups, but all sellers average out 72% of all sellers interview just one agent before listing their home. So you can look down at these numbers. I mean, that's huge. And I think if you, in this instance, if you're walking away and not winning this listing, it may not be you, it may not, but I think you should really reflect on, did I do something wrong? Am I not conveying confidence? Do they not trust me? Because really what they're doing is saying, hey, listen, if I want my problem solved, and if I come across the right person, I'm ready to solve this problem right now and hire this person. And the lowest percentage, age group 36 to 58, or excuse me, I don't know what I'm reading, 36 to 50, that middle age group there, even 68% of that group, which is the smallest percentage, is still overwhelmingly only interviewing one agent. That group as well, the maximum 20% of those are actually having two agents compete. So when we talk about our business, are we really competing in a traditional sense in the way that people might think for business? I don't really think we are. I think we're in a lot of ways just competing with ourselves to find the right people. So remember that every time you go to a listing, remember that it's not necessarily about your competition. It's almost always about you. All right, we're going to jump into this. I think, we all have a pretty good perspective on this. when we talk about, how are we getting more appointments? How are we getting invited to these? We're not going to spend a lot of time on that. That's not really the subject of this, but I think we know that we need to get in front of these people, and the way that you do it is have consistent prospecting. If you don't know enough people, you need to be doing open houses and door knocking those open houses, that type of thing. But that's an entirely different class. Let's focus on why sellers sell. So the number one category, they're sort of listing these as the most important to the least important. So if it's a top, depending on the age group, that'll be the most important. So 35% or younger, their home is too small. I think that's pretty obvious. I think all of us who have grown up, we used to go and buy the first thing we could afford. In a pretty short period of time, we grow out of that. And as time goes on, you can see that those numbers diminish down. Job relocation is pretty steady across the board. The biggest group there, 36 to 50, 26% of those people are relocating for jobs. And 51 to 60, again, 20% of those are relocating for jobs. Friends or family, wanting to move closer to friends or family. As you might expect, as you get older, that's what you want to do. You want to be closer to loved ones. So those are the major reasons. I mean, there's a pretty good mix of change in family situations, so marriage, birth of a child, or divorce. Neighborhood becomes less desirable. I think I even experienced that growing up and buying my first home. So keep your eyes out for those things, and because we all know there are some neighborhoods that start out as starter home neighborhoods, and maybe they're becoming less desirable, and we know people in there who want to move up or move out or those types of things. All right, moving on. This is to me one of the most interesting parts of this section. Most important factor in choosing their real estate agent. I think most of us would automatically go trustworthiness. And I think you'd be right. Reputation of their real estate agent. Your reputation, I don't know how they sort of cut this dividing line between reputation of agent and agent is honest and trustworthy. What do you think the difference is there, Rob? Because they seem to be one and the same.
The first thing that comes to my mind is maybe just overall reviews, like a Google review being the kind of the top of the list. And then after they sit down and that might get people in the door, and then now they have to sit and talk with them. And what helped them finalize their decision is in talking with them, they realize that they sound honest, they sound trustworthy. So that's probably the way that I would break it down.
I actually love that. I didn't actually take the angle on reputation of agent, but that seems to be the best description of that. And
SOI referrals too, same thing.
yeah, I think that may put some thought into, if you're not asking for these reviews and directing them to Google reviews or your Facebook business page or whatnot. I think that's a huge missed opportunity there, because yeah, your reputation exists outside of those reviews. And of course, we want the referral. We want one of our past clients to say, hey, this agent did a great job, you should use them. But online reviews have been for a long time, and probably will continue into the future to be very important. So your reputation matters a lot, as you all know, and it is maybe most easily expressed in Google reviews or Facebook business page reviews, or however you're gathering those and communicating those.
There may be some additional avenues. Also, their involvement in, say, their local community or the county that they're involved with. If they have more of a high profile, or at least opportunities to get their name out there, again, how they respond and behave in those situations will also impact that first area.
Yeah, I love that. And by the way, just, I think sometimes communicating those Google reviews or whatnot is difficult. The most easily accessible way to communicate some of your best reviews, I think, is really obvious. Add it as a page to your listing presentation, and you don't even have to talk about it. It's just there so they can see it. I know several of the agents in my offices have Of course, they're doing their bio and their photo, and then the very next page, and maybe even a couple pages, are reviews. And it's only 2 or 3 lines and maybe a first name and a last initial, something like that. But it's important, and it does give people the confidence to go, oh, other people have had a good experience. Looks like I might too. Things to point out. So your reputation, almost all the way across the board there, is more important than agent is honest and trustworthy. Those two things go hand in hand, but remember, what is less important to clients is agent is a friend or family member. Now, we all know that we've lost deals, or we've pursued a deal or two and a family member takes it away from us. But this does speak pretty well to, hey, listen, if you have a good reputation and you come across as competent and trustworthy and honest, you can beat out the friend or family member type situation. So know that. This is also really important. Agents' knowledge of the neighborhood. I think this gets downplayed a little bit as we talk about development and developing our skills. And yeah, we're an Ogden agent is going to travel to Bountiful for a listing. We're going to do that, and vice versa. The Bountiful agent's going to travel to Ogden to list a home. But we should know our neighborhoods. We should know the markets that we're in, and we should be reviewing data on these things regularly, monthly. We go over stats in my office every single month, but I don't know that that's sufficient to really have great neighborhood and market knowledge. So just be aware of that. That's sort of part of, in my opinion, should be part of your development as a real estate agent. Agent has caring personality and is a good listener. That's pretty low on the list. Pretty low on the list.
The one that I see pretty interesting there, Mike, is agent's commission. I think more often than not, we as agents might be worried about the commission conversation with our clients. And so we have a preconceived idea of the percentage that we're prepared to take when we walk in the door. And if there is a subtle question, we immediately jump to reducing the commission. Because here, based on this stat, those are very low numbers that commission is the issue. And in reality, that comes up far more often than this appears on the list. So again, are we the one that have the problem with the potential commission and we've yet to acquire the objection handler? Or is it the client that has a problem with it?
Thank you, Rob. I'm really happy that you pointed that out. Yeah, that's a really great point. It's in our head, the commission discussion. And I can say that one of the benefits of growing up in the real estate business in the commercial world is I think there's a bigger emphasis on, there's a lot of negatives in the commercial world, by the way, a lot of them. One of the positives, though, is the emphasis on negotiation and being strong. And that comes down to negotiating your commission. And so I don't know that the strategy was always correct, but it proved itself to be efficient. And the strategy I'm talking about when we talk about our commission is they ask you how much you charge, you tell them. And when they say any follow-up questions, your only response is, that's my fee. It was a little too blunt the way I learned it. I think there's some other ways to deliver that message that, yeah, I'm holding fast. But I don't recall a single instance in which that was a deciding factor for my client, or that they said, no, I found somebody to do it cheaper. So really good point, Rob. The agent commission is, we're hung up on that much more than our clients are, and it shows out here in this survey. Really great point. Here's another thing that should give you some solace and maybe make you relax a little bit. Agent seems 100% accessible because of technology use like tablet or smartphone. It's not a concern. It's barely registers as an issue for our clients. And so I would encourage everybody. This has more to do with your mental health and reducing anxiety and all those things. Set boundaries with your clients. Set communication boundaries. Like, I'm available during these hours. I'm not available on this day because I take days off. Whatever you feel the need to do, you can set boundaries and it'll be okay, and you won't lose business because of it. Okay. Just do it. Set those boundaries because most of our clients just do not care. Um, yeah, I mean, the biggest issues are agent's knowledge of neighborhood, agent is a friend or family member, agent is honest and trustworthy, and reputation of agent. And then everything else seems to not matter much at all. And so, those are the things that maybe if you want to spend some real time focusing, those are the things to focus on. I mean, you can focus on being a friend. I wouldn't focus on being a family member. That's an uphill battle. Avoid that. Avoid that. All right, moving on to what sellers want most from real estate agents. I think there's some truth to we may emphasize things, and I'm channeling Will here a little bit. This survey could be off a little bit because our clients don't know what they don't know, and that's a problem, right? And that's our job to explain what the potential problems with the real estate transactions are. For instance, right here in the middle, help with negotiation and dealing with buyers. It's low priority for our clients. Should it be a low priority? No, this is a big priority for our clients. And so just because they have the perspective that it's not important to them, it's sort of one of those things that's part of where we need to educate our clients that no, this is a big deal. This is where this could make or break a transaction. And we all know those real estate agents who are really good at keeping deals together because they have the wisdom and the experience and the knowledge, and they know how to overcome objections and problems and get a deal to the finish line for their clients. So, negotiating and dealing with buyers should be higher on the priority list, even though it's not their priority. Help price home competitively. That's sort of up there, right? But it doesn't seem to be a huge thing on top of their mind. But if you do look at the first four questions, so the first four questions for those who are in their cars, the number one for the average of what sellers want most from their real estate agents is help seller market home to potential buyers. That's the number one. Number two, which is tied, help sell the home with a specific time frame. Number three, help find a buyer for the home. Four, help price home competitively, and help seller find ways to fix up their home to sell it for a higher value. Those are the top five there. And they're kind of spread evenly, and each given kind of an equal, probably an appropriate equal amount of attention from this survey. Things that they don't care about, which are the negotiations, dealing with buyers, and help with paperwork, inspections, preparing for settlement. Another thing that our clients don't know what they don't know, in my opinion, this is one of the most important things for them, is to deal with the paperwork and the inspections and prepare for settlement, because these are the things that can really make or break make or break the deal and have a really successful transaction. This is interesting. They're asking the question, though only two groups responded: help create and post videos to provide a tour of my home. Kind of a weird one, but they're asking it in the survey. There was only two groups that even responded at 1%. Help seller market home to property and sell within a specific time frame. Our listing presentation is already catered to tell our clients exactly what we're going to do to help them sell our home. But the second one, help sell the home within a specific time frame. I think that's a pretty big subject. And this is where your market knowledge comes in, your neighborhood knowledge, and how good you are at accessing data on our MLS system. And just by entering in the chat, those that can, how confident on a 1 to 10 scale are you on determining days on market? Throw that in the chat if you can. I feel like days on market, maybe I overly fixate on this, but determining days on market for a specific type of home in a specific neighborhood seems to be pretty important to me. What say you, Rob?
100% in regards of understanding the time frame, because our first off, we need to set the expectations up correctly with our clients. And if our client is communicating to us that, hey, they've got to sell this home quickly, and right now, for Salt Lake County, our average days on market is around 55. Well, first off, we need to understand, what does quickly mean? Is this quickly, for one, maybe completely different from somebody else? So we've got to make sure that we ask incredible follow-up questions. But if they need to sell the home quickly, and if that's faster than the average days on market, well, then the way I would look at it is, we got two things that we can control: condition of the home, and then price. If the home is in a poor condition, then the price better reflect that. If the home is in incredible condition, then the price also has an impact on that. But those both have an impact on whether or not the home will sell faster or not. So we have to have those conversations up front with our client, so that they are following the time frame in accordance with what their expectations are.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Real quick, Tara says in the chat, isn't there a way to pull this from the MLS by zip code and type of property? Yes, there certainly is. That kind of goes to my question. How confident are you in determining this? Now, obviously, days on market isn't the only factor, right? I mean, price is also a huge factor on days on market, and price range and type of property and all those things. But get used to this. Now, um, these aren't the only things, but they're really important. To Rob's point, I just had this experience in my office last week. So the challenge to us was, hey, I have a piece of property. I need to sell this piece of property to help facilitate kind of an emergency situation in my life, and I need this deal done quickly. And what does quickly look like? And that was our job, to figure out what quickly looks like. And so we need to discover days on market. We need to look at the sold properties. We need to understand our neighborhood and the product. And we need to come up with a price, because, days on market, just like Rob said, days on market could be 90 days. Well, that's not quick. 90 days wasn't quick to them. And so if it's properly priced at X and we need it quickly, well, does that mean here? Where do we need to price it to move quickly? That's where your skill comes in. That's where your market knowledge comes in. These are
Hey,
the things that are most helpful.
hey, Mike, do you want to quickly just pull up your screen and show where they can access days on market?
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you just go to the main primary page on Utah Real Estate, and then the upper right hand, I don't have mine in front, but in the upper right hand corner, you can, like you said, you can break it down by county, you can break it down by zip code, and
All right.
so yeah.
There we go. You're talking about this market
Yep.
statistics, right?
Yep. So give your duration of time, what the market type is.
Yep. There you go. It's a really great tool. For some reason, oh yeah, my brain is not functioning. All listings, my listings, entire market, and then you can do, just exactly to your point, Tara, zip code. So we're gonna do 84403. Utah.
And you can break it. I mean, you're doing the last 30 days. You could do the last 3 months, last 6 months.
Yeah. And so there, if you need something quick in the 84403, you can go average or median. And by the way, you should always do both. You should always have both in mind, average or median, to help them determine this, right? Look at average is 73. Median, however, is 57. Number of sales, 34. Median price, 404. Averages changed pretty dramatically. And that's why we always present both scenarios. And that's how you can quickly get it. Yeah, there's definitely ways to dive deeper. to find days on market for a specific product. Rapid Stats has a way to do that too if you want to use Rapid Stats. So, oh, there we go. Okay, those are what they expect from us, what they want from real estate agents. All right, let's a couple more really interesting things on this topic here. All right, this one may be sensitive to some people. It won't be sensitive. Never mind. I'm being dramatic. All right, this is method used to find your real estate agent. So, as you would expect, referred by or is a friend, neighbor, or relative. These hold true across the board, except when you hit up into the 70 plus range, then it falls off pretty dramatically. So all sellers average across the board at 42% are referred by or is a friend or neighbor or a relative. And you know, nobody's surprised that you want to build a referral based business. No one's surprised by that. That's the goal. That's the dream. And because it's the most effective. It's the most effective way, right? This is interesting. Used agent previously to buy or sell a home. The numbers are dramatically lower. In fact, almost half. So the average, for those of you driving, the referral average is 42%. Now, they use the agent previously to buy or sell a home. The average is only 24%, which begs the question, why is that number so low? Because that's a pretty low number if you think about it. That means they're not going back to the agent that they used before, obviously. Almost 8 out of 10 times, they're not going back to their previous agent. They're still looking for a new referral. I would say that's a reflection on real estate agents' business practices. What say you, Rob?
Yeah, twofold. I would agree. It's we as agents probably doing a poor job with our follow-up. But the one thing I would add, when you combine those two numbers together, you're talking about 66% of the business is based on SOI. Now, that how we use that SOI, are we personally keeping in touch with our past clients? According to this, not so much. 1 out of 4 is the work. But for those agents that manage and work their SOI very well, you know, that's 66% of the business on average comes from that book of business. So it's a great area that we should all be focusing on.
Love that point. It's a great point. You know, that leads to my next point, the contrast in this survey, how they find their real estate agent. So the first two categories are respectively 42% and 24%. The number 3 method, there's a tie for the number 3 method. The number 3 method is 4%, by the way, which is an internet website and personal contact by agent and referred by another real estate agent or broker. So think about that. Those 3 things each at 4%, not big numbers, but I think this survey also speaks to another issue that I think you can capitalize on. So referred to employers or relocation companies, saw contact information on an open house sign or for sale sign, visited an open house or met an agent, referred by another agent or brokerage, personal contact by agent, telephone or email, or an internet or website. Now, when you add all those up, that's a really good way to supplement your business, right? Those are really good methods when you consistently do all of those things, hold open houses, you know, have a good website, make follow-up phone calls, contact your SOI, and do newsletters, which we do newsletters. When you do all those things, those can add up and give you those extra deals every year that that can supplement your business. So also really great point there, Rob. This is our business, our real estate business has and probably always will be SOI oriented. And so I'll challenge everybody, if you don't know how many people are on your SOI list down to the number, that's your new challenge. You need to know that Excel spreadsheet very well. All right, moving on. That very next slide, so just right over here, This is, did the seller use the same real estate agent for their purchase? So kind of a goofy graph. Blue is yes, red is no. And it's 50, it's a 50, the bottom line is across the board, it's a 50-50 shot. And, you know, as you get older, the chances that you're going to use the same real estate agent to also help you buy your next home decreases, and kind of hits pretty hard when you hit 61 for whatever reason. But yeah, it's 50% across the board, so that's a pretty unique challenge. Well, why would you say that is, Rob? It seems like that number should be higher. I mean, why is
Uh,
only
the
half our
the
clients
first
using this?
the first thought that comes to my mind is maybe those that are older have been in their home longer. And so if that, I mean, for example, my parents that are in their, my mom's 88, my dad's 90, they've lived in the home since I was 3. So we're talking 50 years they've lived in the home. So the likelihood that even the agent that sold them the home is in business, let alone that they've remained in contact with them, is very, very low. So they would have no idea who sold them the home initially when the time comes. Whereas the younger generation, they don't have that history as much. And if they are, if they're 35 years or younger, they haven't been in the home very long. So they'll probably have a better chance of maintaining that relationship with the agent that sold their home. But so, I mean, that's the thought that comes to my mind.
Yeah, I like that thought too. But I look at this and I also see a lot of opportunity. And I always relay this experience I had quite a while ago, kind of early on in my brokering days that struck me. I had a client call our office, and they somehow found their way to me, and they said, "Hey, I'm having an issue with my home. Excuse me. I'm having an issue with my home, and I just want to talk to my agent and help me work through this." And I said, "Great. Who's your agent?" Um, I can't remember. I can't remember their name. And so I'm asking all these follow-up questions. When did you close? 4 months ago. Man or a woman? Oh, it was a man, or whatever their answer was. But the thing that struck me was they think about your experience and how much time you spend communicating and working with a buyer. And it could be months, and you could have walked through a few dozen homes easily and sent a few hundred text messages and spent maybe an hour and a half on the phone with these people. And 4 months after the closing, this person didn't know the name of their real estate agent. And oh, by the way, they did say they did a great job. I really appreciated them. And they still didn't know the name of their real estate agent. Now, that's weird, but that trend does play out frequently, where they have this huge stressful problem, and as soon as that problem's gone, your name and your what you did for them can disappear. So it's up to it's your job to keep reminding them that you're the real estate agent. Heather says there are also a lot of agents that drop off and are no longer agents, and of course, many agents don't keep in contact. Yeah, very true. I think that's the biggest problem. The majority of us don't keep in contact the way we should. So remember, that's a huge part of your job. Think of how hard you work to find and get a client. It's so much easier to keep a client than it is to find and get a new one. So, but that the keeping the client is very long term and repetitive, and that's hard. So remember that people will forget about you pretty quick. All right. No, this is not. Let me see. Let me check my notes here, folks. Let me stop sharing. Oh, okay. This is a pretty good outline, in my opinion. When you're doing your listing presentation, this is seller's questions you must answer. So while we do this, think about your listing presentation, think about what you're saying. and think of how you're delivering it and if you're answering these questions. So, core concerns. Core concern number one, what is the true market value? Number two, what is my net? Number three, how long will it take to sell? And number four, will my property sell? And so as you look at each individual problem of the core concern that you're trying to solve during your presentation, just think back. What am I doing? Am I answering these questions? So things, what is the true market value? The CMA versus the appraisal. Are you using Moxie? I would encourage everyone to start using Moxie. If you're not, it can take a minute to kind of get up to speed with what Moxie is. But Moxie is a consumer-centric presentation, and so I think it's a really great tool. Tax assessment data, construction and reproduction, reproduction costs, and pending and active comparables. One thing I always tell everybody: yes, sold data is very important, but in the instances where we have limited sold data, we can lean on active listings and talk about our competitiveness in the marketplace. That's also important. And sometimes I think we forget that. We have the sold and market data behind us, but how are we in comparison to the rest of the marketplace that is currently trying to sell their home? Always spend an equal amount of time on that, in my opinion. What say you, Rob?
I mean, if you're talking about the market value and making sure that we're assessing that properly, is I would factor in under contracts as one of the key elements. If I were to put a priority, I would say the sold data is first, under contract is second, and active would fall into third. Because the one thing that dealing with the under contracts, yes, we don't know exactly what it went under for, but we do know that at least at that particular price, we were finally able to come to terms between buyer and seller and go under contract. So in that order, sold, under contract, and active are what I value as helpful information.
Oh, I love that perspective. That's really nice where you can say, hey, at this price point, we attracted somebody. That's pretty powerful. All right, moving on in the same core concerns. How long will it take to sell? We covered that already. So we'll move on. Number four, will my property sell? Oh wait, we skipped one. What is my net? This is interesting. How many people on here are doing net sheets during their listing presentations? Just throw in there a yes or no in the chat if you are doing a net sheet. I haven't traditionally, though that may have been a weakness of mine. Did you do net sheets, Rob?
I did. It was more so, I mean, price is always a concern, I think, from a seller, but for the most part, they want to feel, get an idea, perspective where it is. But for those that price is extremely important, they are short on numbers, then that's where those net sheets really become essential, because the last thing you want to do is let the seller think that they have an idea of where they're going to walk away on the sale of their home, and all of a sudden that price turns out to be a little bit less than they thought. And now when it's all said and done, they were expecting X dollars in their pocket and they got Y dollars. And now because of the Y dollars, they're in a tough spot.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And it looks like, yes, I am, looks like I had a serious leak in my listing game. Everybody is yes and always, Tara says, gives the seller an idea of what we need to list the property. I think, and also, by the way, there is a specific slide in Moxie for net proceeds that you can use. And it's static. It's always there, updates with the market, and I think it's pretty helpful. And I think too, discussing potential negotiated repairs and concessions is important, especially after you review the property and give your assessment of maybe things that they need to do. So there you go. Moving on to the second part of this, which is the marketing section. And this is in the seller's question you must answer. How will my property be marketed, or how would you find a buyer? Listen, that question is answered already in our listing presentation. We have marketing letters, marketing guarantee letters that you can also go down and edit yourself to say exactly how we're going to market your property and how it goes out. And by the way, I've had, as we recruit new people and they're going through our process and they're having all these interesting questions that I've answered before, and then I forget because, we just got a machine here. What does the syndication process look like? When you list a new property, does everyone here know that, we have a social media platform that is marketing their listing? I'm sure you do because you're getting all those emails about them, right? Are you using it? Are you talking about that in your listing presentation? So yeah, that's how we're going to market their property. Will there be an open house? If so, when? I think putting a timeline on that, exactly when it's going to happen, is important. And I think by and large, we do a really good job of that. What should be done to prepare for showings? I think we also do a really good job at this. We give pretty good advice on this. If you're struggling, if I do know some agents use the strategy of simply handing over a staging, one of our staging guides when someone's house is looking really cluttered and maybe you're feeling a little sensitive to deliver what might be seen as offensive information. We can lean on that guide. So yeah, there we go. And we'll kind of breeze through here. We're running out of time a little bit. When will pictures and videos be done for sell sign? Where will the KB be placed? What is the KB, Rob? Where will the KB be placed? Key box.
Box.
Sorry, that should be pretty obvious. Yeah, talk about showing, set showing expectations, all those types of things. What is a buyer's agent compensation? I think we do a really good job of talking about that now. And then, of course, a review of the Rep C is always warranted. All right. That kind of concludes our portion of listing expectations and what our clients are expecting from us. Anybody have any comments, questions, or something they'd like to add to that while we tee up the next one? Next item.
The only thing that I would add is sometimes we get a little too hung up on when it comes to the pricing. I mentioned this a little bit earlier before, is there's three things that we basically control in this process. There's the marketing and exposure of the property that we as the brokerage and listing agents do. And if the client thinks that we're the best solution to be able to market and expose their property better than anybody else, and that objection is handled, well, then the last two things are condition of the property and price. And so if the seller does not plan on improving the condition of their property and it's being sold in the condition that it's already in, the only thing we can do is price. Because from the marketing exposure, if that is already done and we're doing everything we can do there, the condition's not going to change. Price is the only issue. So when we keep, as our market is unfolding and we're seeing homes that are staying on the market longer than they have been, well, those are the things we can look back to. Is yes, if there's more marketing and exposure we can do, okay, great. But if you've had 30, 40 people come into that home from whether it be outside showings or open houses, and you have yet to receive any offers, my answers without even seeing the property is probably going to be you're overpriced. So we need to be prepared to have those conversations with our sellers that the exposure is going to be a huge indicator on where we are on pricing. And if we're not getting anybody in the home, we're not getting any showings or activity, therefore we're not getting any offers. Again, you're probably so overpriced that people are moving past your listing onto somebody else's. So just I say that as sometimes I think people are they're asking me, why is my home not selling? And if I just ask, well, what's the condition of the home? Are you getting anybody in the home? Are you getting enough people to see the home? If the answer is yes, and you're not getting any offers, it's probably price.
Yeah, for sure. And I think in my office, we've had multiple similar instances where we're getting the showings, we're getting okay feedback, but we're not getting the offers, and there's not much, there's not much else to talk about. Price.
We all know that if the home was if it was priced well, if it was a great offer, offers would be on the table. If we're not getting any offers, but we're getting the activity, it comes down to those two pieces. We've either got to improve the condition of the home to match the current price that it's at, or we've got to lower the price to match the current condition of the property.
All right, very good. Okay, we're going to move on to a couple of. I want to cover this because this is just a reminder. I think some people do a really good job of this, and I often forget this as well. But this is as it pertains to the REPC and negotiation. I want to encourage everyone to remember that 8.4 exists. I think, every now and again we give the reminder on this, but it is not necessarily, yeah, sure, it's more easily filled out, obviously, when the offer's made. But the concept of this is really easy, and I think sometimes we forget it later on in the contract when we're negotiating, and it is 8.4, additional earnest money deposit. So we'll read this real quick. If the REPC has not been previously canceled by buyers provided in section 8.1, 8.2, or 8.3 is applicable, then no later than the due diligence deadline or the finance and appraisal deadline, whichever is later, buyer will deliver, in this instance we want will because of certain negotiation issues, deliver to buyer's brokerage an additional earnest money deposit in the amount of X. The earnest money deposit and the additional earnest money deposit is applicable or sometimes referred to herein as deposits. And obviously these are labeled as earnest money deposits, so they always are credited towards the purchase price at closing. I just want to talk about that as a negotiation tool. I think that sometimes if you're feeling nervous as a listing agent with a buyer as they're doing their due diligence and they're asking for things, additional earnest money deposits, sometimes regardless of the amount, are a really good way to see the seriousness or vet people as buyers, or in certain circumstances, make us appear more serious as a buyer. Use that tool, deposit more earnest money when it's appropriate. It's a really good tool to leverage in as a buyer or as a seller. So make sure that you're using that and remembering to use that section. Or just as you can copy and paste that stuff into an addendum and use it the same way. And this was lastly, one last issue to talk about. This happened in my office, and I thought it was a really good lesson for everybody because it did take me a short second to think about. And this is in regards to the short-term lease agreement that is now an addendum. So the short-term lease agreement addendum, and as it relates to the pre-settlement walkthrough. And this is just a reminder that the pre-settlement walkthrough should always be, regardless of possession or timelines or any of that, always do the pre-settlement walkthrough as it's defined in your purchase contract. So in this instance, we had a 60-day short-term lease agreement that we were putting in place. And, the thought was, well, these people, yeah, sure, we're closing next week, but they're going to be in this home for another couple months. And the question was posed, should we do the pre-settlement walkthrough? And I had to rethink about that, but my conclusion is yeah, absolutely we should. And this is to always establish a baseline of the condition of the home right before closing. And also, if you're going to close on a home, and this is a huge decision and a huge commitment, always walk through that home before settlement. There's almost no reason to not do it. What say you, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, the key part about that is once that property closes, that seller becomes a tenant for the buyer. The buyer now becomes the owner of the property, and that short-term lease agreement addresses things that the buyer or seller or tenant and landlord will be responsible for. So by doing that pre-settlement walkthrough, you're establishing again the condition of the property so that now that it's a rental for that 60-day window, the terms in that short-term lease agreement, it's going to remind people who's responsible for repairs, who's responsible for the condition of the property, and what. Whereas the REPC just alone and on its face value, it says that the seller is responsible for any moving related damages to the property, and that may not be necessarily the case with using that short-term lease agreement.
Yeah, really great point. Really great point. And I also think too that, I think as brokers, we always think in the terms of worst case scenario. That's where our brains go after a while. And, you know, to establish the baseline and condition of the property is always important. But if people want to play games, that's how they would do it. They would figure that out. Like, oh no, that's how it was like that before we closed. It's your problem. It's, and this is how they create the scenario. So it's our job to cover our clients' best interests, and it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do to always be on the lookout for our clients. You got to be thinking about it. And so anyway, really good lesson for everybody. And it's 1:55. Does anybody have any issues, comments, suggestions, or transactional issues they'd like to share with the club, the Huddle Club? 3, 2, 1. That's a big no. Thanks for coming today, everybody, on this special edition of the Huddle, this beautiful sunny day in April. Thank you so much for coming, and we will see you next week.
Everybody.